Hello everyone. Okay, as usual, I'm just confirming that we are indeed live before I can begin. Okay, so it seems like we are live. Okay, looking very nice. So today I have something interesting, okay, that I find interesting at least. I was looking over Frontend Mentor in the morning, and I found out this slider that they have, and I wanted to create something similar to this slider. As you can see, when I go to the left, it shows the actual design of what we are building, and when I scroll to the right, then it shows the solution that I submitted. So I wanted to create something similar to this, and so as I was looking for the basics of how I can begin to work on it, I happened to stumble upon this website called BeFunky, where you can create a cartoon image of yourself using an original image. And I found that this website is actually very well designed. If you keep on scrolling, you see that they have the same slider. As you can see, they have the same slider where they show you the original image right there before, and then they show you the cartoon image that is generated after. And it's actually very well designed, and so I decided to put this on hold for a moment, and instead what we're going to do in this video is I went back to the home page, and you can see that it's actually very nice looking, very nice. And this is a slider. As you can see, it keeps on scrolling, even though it doesn't have the actual slider controls, which means probably it was made with CSS keyframes, and that's what I'm going to use actually. And when you keep on scrolling, it's just basically a landing page, as you can see, and it looks very nice. So I decided that, you know what, I'm just going to clone this website. So that's what we are going to do in this video, and I already downloaded all the images, and I created all the data arrays and all our data that we'll need as best I could actually. And then I committed that to GitHub, and I'm going to look over that in a moment. So if you go to github.com/sancthomas/BeFunky setup files, that is the name of the repository, you'll find that we have a data folder, we have an images folder, we had a readme, which is basically this, and we have video embed.txt, which is basically the iframe for this video. It's the iframe for this video right there. So basic for the setup files, what we have is our data arrays, which will have all the data that we'll need for each of these sections, because we're going to be building this in React. This website doesn't use React, but I'm just going to be using React for it, you know. And basically the data that we have is for this grid section, as well as for this the photo editor, the collage maker, and the graphic designer sections, and as well as the footer and the navbar. So the footer is basically all of these links, and the navbar is just basically these three items. And I've just realized I'm not going to do this pop-up on hover. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm just going to be creating the basic layout, very static with minimal functionality basically, as well as I'm not also going to be creating the hamburger menu, this toggle right there. Okay, so I think that will be it, and to get started I'm just going to start from right here. So I need to go back to this repository actually, and then I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to open up my terminal, and I'm just going to say cd into my desktop, and I'm going to clone that repository. So git clone, and once that's done, I'm going to say cd into BeFunky setup files, and then once you do that, open Visual Studio Code like that. Okay, and one thing that you should do, because this is basically React, remember always to create a new React application, which is basically what I've done right here. So this is my React application. You can do that by saying npx create React app and name it whatever you want, but I've just basically named it BeFunky because that's the name of the repository that I'm going to create where I can deploy this to. Okay, so I'm going to close this out for now, and I'm going to go through my data. So data.js is basically this for the photo editor section, the collage maker, and the graphic designer. And then the features is our grid with 9 items, so grid 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then the footer, as you would expect, is basically the footer links. And then the navbar is the 3 main navigation that, not really the main navigation, but the navigation that changes the most, because we don't want to keep on hopping page to page to keep on changing one thing, such that if we just change it in one place, then it changes it in the entire website. So that's why I have this array right here. So I'm going to close this down, and of course, as you expect, these are the images that we are using, and you'll notice that I have a hero right there, which is the first image, and then I have hero-2, and then hero-3, and then hero-4. And basically the reason why I have 4 hero images is because I'm going to be creating this slider using CSS keyframes, and I hope I really remember how to do that, because it's kind of been a while before since the last time I did it. So I'm going to close this down, and I'm going to close yeah, I can close this down because we don't need it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up to the side and open this up like that, and then I'm going to grab my images right here. I'm going to just copy this, and then inside my public folder I'm going to just paste them like that. And then my data folder right there, I'm going to copy this, and inside my source folder I'm going to paste them inside there. And then the readme for this, I think I'm going to create a new readme, because I don't want this create React app readme, but I'm just going to leave it for now. And then the video embed txt, I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it, let me paste it outside the folder. So just paste it outside the folder, and then once we do that, I can close this down, and then I can open this up on a bigger screen, and then I can say npm start, so that we can start our dev server. Okay, now as this starts, what I want to do is we can begin looking over our data, how we want to structure it. And basically what we want to do is for the hero images, I think for the hero images we are going to grab all of them, and then actually no, let me okay, let me just copy them, and then inside my source folder I'm going to create a new folder called images, and then just paste them inside like that, and then I can delete them from above right here. So delete these. Wait, is that actually a good idea? Okay, yeah, it's okay to delete them from from up there. The reason why I'm doing that is because these 4 images will have to be accessed from our index CSS, because we want to use CSS keyframes in order to change them at certain intervals. So they need to be inside the scope of the CSS folder, which is basically the source folder, because we can't access them outside of the source folder in the public folder. Okay, so once I do that, I can close this for now because we don't really need it, and then I can close this as well. But before I do that, let me remember to clean up this file just a bit, and I can remove this comment. I can remove the manifest JSON up to here, and I can remove this comment as well, and then I can change this to BeFunky like that. And then I don't really have the color for this, but I'm just going to say remember to change color like that. And then once I do this, then I'm going to say I want to use TailwindCSS in this project, right? Is that correct? Okay, yeah, that is correct. I want to use TailwindCSS in this project. So what I'm going to do is just head over to cdnjs.com, and then I'm going to grab TailwindCSS like that. I'm going to just copy the link tag, and then I'm going to paste it inside this. And the reason why I like doing that is because the process of installing Tailwind in a React app is just so long, and because this is a small project, it doesn't really make sense to me, so I like using the CDN. And then once I do this, I also want to I've just remembered that if you check at the bottom of this, on the footer, we have some icons right there, and I can use font awesome for each of these, but I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to install React icons. So I'm going to add a new terminal right there, and I'm going to say npm install react dash icons dash dash save, like that. And then once this finishes running, then we should see some change in our package.json where it says modified, and then React icons should appear somewhere here. So I'm going to close this, I'm going to save this. Okay, save. It was hanging for a moment, I thought it crashed. So let it save that, and then I can now open this to the side, and then I can close this down, and you can see that our title has now changed. Okay. So actually I like this open on my left and this open on my right. Okay, so let's begin working on this. Right, let me just confirm this is finished or not yet. So let's begin working on this, and obviously the first thing that I want to do is some cleanup. I want to delete the app CSS, and I want to delete the report web and the setup tests as well, probably, as well as the logo, and then the app test.js, so that I only remain with these 3 files. So I'm going to just delete all of them, and then our application should crash like that. And then in the app.js I'm going to remove these 2, and then I'm going to remove this div, and then I'm going to return an empty fragment with an h1 that says BeFunky, like that. And then in the index CSS I'm going to remove this, I'm going to remove this, actually I'm going to remove everything inside this body. And then here I need to import font, and we're going to be using the Roboto Slab font for this project. So font family is called Roboto Slab with a sans serif fallback. So to get that, we just need to go to fonts.google.com, get this font. Okay, and then just say Roboto Slab. This font, I love this font very much. And I'm going to grab the regular 400, and I'm going to grab the semi-bold 600. The reason why is because the 400 is going to be used for paragraphs, and the 600 is going to be used for headings and titles and everything else. So I'm going to grab the import right there, and then I'm just going to replace it with that, and then it should be working now. So I'm going to save that, and then in index.js, because we deleted this file, I'm going to remove it, and then I'm going to remove this, and yeah, it should work because app is basically our app.js, and we should now be able to see BeFunky on the screen once we reload right there. So everything is working correctly, and we can now begin working on our app.js component. Okay. Actually what I want to do first of all is create a components folder. So inside the source folder I'm going to create a components folder, and inside this components folder I'm going to create navbar.js, so capital N because it's a component, and then I'm going to say RAFCE, which will create a React arrow function component and export it as default. So once I do that, I'm going to return an empty fragment, and remember that in my data folder I have a navbar.js, which is basically 3 links, which are the 3 major links: the create, learn, and support. Those are the 3 major links that we're going to be using. So in navbar.js I need to import that data, so I'm going to say import data from, did I give it a default export? Okay, so import data from, it's coming from data/navbar, and then I also need to import use state, because we want to set up our state variables which will be able to access this data. So I'm going to call this state variable, I'm going to call them links and set links, and I'm going to set this to use state, and the default value will be my data which I've just imported. So once I do that, then I'm going to say I want to map over this data, so I'm going to say links.map, and then for every link I just want to set up a return statement here that says return a list item, and the list item should have a key of the ID, and then each list item should say I want the each list item should say I want the link dot, what name did I give it, link.link. Ooh, that's not a good idea. Let me call this L, and then let me call this L, and then I can say .link right there. And then here I should say L.id because I haven't destructured it. If I were to destructure it here and say const id and link coming from L, then I would not put this here, so I can just delete this, and then once I save it, it should work. And what I need to import it inside my, let me open this page. I need to import this file inside my app.js, so I need to do that, and I'm going to just go above this and say import navbar from components/navbar, right? And then in order to render it, I just need to pass in the navbar component, so navbar like that, and we should see something on the screen like that. So looking nice. But then you'll notice that I also want to add this logo. So oh, I've just remembered I need this logo from my images folder. So inside the public folder and inside the images folder, I have a logo.svg. So I need to copy this, I need to copy it, and then inside my source folder and inside the images folder in the source, I just need to paste it inside like that. So that's basically this. And then in navbar, I'm going to import that logo. So I'm going to say import logo from, it's coming from images, and it's called logo.svg. And then I'm going to take all of this, I'm going to cut it out, and I'm going to wrap it inside a header tag like that. And then inside this header tag, I'm going to say what is it? Something's confusing me. I need to return a div inside here with a class of logo, just so that it doesn't confuse me. And inside this logo, I'm going to return an image, and the source will be the logo, which I've just imported right there. And then for these links, I'm going to place them inside a nav element like that. And then for this nav element, I'm going to grab all of this and place it inside a UL, so that we can see that this is an unordered list and it's returning some list items. And then outside this, I'm going to create another div, and this div will say an icon that comes from React icons called FA bars like that. And FA bars are coming from React icons, which you have just installed right there. And if I go into my package JSON, you'll notice that I have React icons right there. So in order to use this icon, I just need to import it at the top, and I'm going to import it after this React, and I'm going to say import FA bars from React-icons/FA. That should work. So let me save that, and we should see something on the screen. Reload. And there you go. So we have our logo right there, we have the 3 links that we want, and then we have the FA bars right there. And basically what I want to do now is just display this as none, because I don't want this to appear on small screens. So I'm going to go inside this nav, and I'm going to give this a class name of hidden, because we're using TailwindCSS, and just like that. And then the next thing I want to do is now just limit this image just a bit more, but I'm going to go into the header first of all. So I'm going to give this header class name of flex, so that this goes right there, or not. What happened? Really? Let's see, class name of flex. Okay, oops. Items center and justify between. This goes there, but I can't see the logo. Why can't I see the logo? I can't see the logo. Why? Is it because of this? It can't be. It can't be. So this is displaying correctly, because it means there's an element right here, and then this is the second one, this is the third one. But why can't I see the logo now? It's not even appearing in my inspect. That's interesting. That is very interesting. I've never seen that happen before. I want this to be hidden first of all, and then I'm just going to say let me add some padding on the X of 10. Let me give this a background color of gray with a shade of 900. Let me see. The image still doesn't appear. You know what? Let me add a padding on the Y as well of 10. Push this down a bit. Ooh, that's too much. Let me say 5. This is quite interesting to me. I've never seen this happen before, where the image doesn't appear if I have flex right there. You see that? If I have flex right here, the image doesn't appear, and if I remove it, the image appears. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at that for now, because there is still a lot that I want to do, and then I can figure that out later in the project. Okay, so once I do this, basically this is going to be our header, and for this header, I want this header to have a background, not a background really, but I want it to be fixed, right? Because this is a fixed header. As you can see, it scrolls as we scroll. So I want this header to be fixed, and I want it to have a width of full, because if I don't have this width, notice what happens. This goes to this side, which I don't want, so I'm going to say width full, like that. And then that's basically it for our mobile header. And then because I want to scale it up, I'm going to say that for a media of a medium width, which is basically a tablet width, I'm going to say oops, not right there, but right here. So on a tablet width, then I want this to display as block, like that. And notice what happens when I scroll up, then this appears. And then once this appears, then I want this to disappear, so I'm going to give this a class name of medium, and I'm going to say hidden, which will make this disappear, like that. And then I'm going to go right inside here. I'm going to give this a class name of flex items center, like that. And then for each of these links right there, I'm going to give this a class name of margin right of 3, which will now separate them out just a bit, like that. Looking very nice. And that's basically it for our navbar. So now what I want to do next is go into my showcase element, which is basically the hero, right? So I'm going to create a new component and call this showcase.js, like that. And then let me just remember to import it, copy this down, call this showcase, and then just render it by calling it showcase. But nothing happens. As you can see, everything disappears, because technically this doesn't have anything. So I'm going to say RAFCE, and then return a fragment once again, and an h1 saying showcase, and we should now see something on the screen saying showcase right there. And you can see that it appears below our header, and the reason why it appears below our header is because our header is positioned fixed. Okay, so in order to fix that, I'm going to just remove this, and I'm going to say return a section, and this section should have a class name of what do we say, a section class name of bg blue dash 500. Okay, showcase, we need that so that you can see actually what's happening. Let's say 100, 200, 3, 4. Nope, that won't work. Let me say green. Let's say 300. Okay, let me just leave it at 300, and then I'm going to say let me give this a height of 3/4, which is basically 3/4, which is basically 75% of the screen of whatever device that you'll be using. So this should go down, or not. Am I forgetting Tailwind classes? I think I'm forgetting Tailwind classes. Let's see. Let me see. H screen. This should be 100 viewport heights. Okay. Let me just deal with H screens for now, but I don't like using viewport heights on mobile devices, because it gives a kind of shaky feeling to it. Okay, so once I have this h1, then let me just confirm what it says. I'm just going to copy this, and then I'm going to paste this inside the h1 like that, and then add a paragraph below this, and just copy this and then paste it. If you need to copy this, you just need to pause the video if you're watching on YouTube, that is. But if you're watching on stream, as I can see you, then I'm just going to give you a while to copy this, and then below this I'm going to say give this a button and say get started like that. And then once I have this, because on bigger screens I want this and this to be displayed as a grid, what I want to do is that I want to grab all of this, cut it out and paste it inside a div, and then create another div, and this div will have a default image, and the image for this will be called hero, which we're going to import because we haven't imported it. And I'm going to say import hero from, it's coming from images, called hero.jpg like that. And once I have this, once I save it, then something should appear on screen just like that, as you can see. And now you'll notice that this is going way below the header, which I don't want. So what I'm going to do is inside this div, I'm going to say, actually not inside the div really, but inside this section, I'm going to say add a padding on the top of, let's say 32, which should push it down massively like that. And then I'm going to add a padding on the x of 10, which should push it inwards like that. And then for the h1, I'm just going to say give this a class name, class name of font bold and text 4XL and a margin bottom of 4, which should separate it out from this paragraph like that. And then for the paragraph, I'm going to say give this a class name of margin bottom of 4 as well. And then for the button that we need to style, I'm going to say give this class name of bg blue dash 500. Okay, let me say padding on the y of 2 and padding on the x of 4 with a rounded border, so rounded border of large border radius. And then I'm going to say the text should be extra large for the button text. And then once the text is extra large, I want the text to be white in color, and then add a white border, so border, let me say border 2, so 2 pixels border, and then say border white, so that is a white border. And then the text white, everything is okay. Let me add font bold on this, font bold, and let me save that. Let's see how that looks. And we have this text excel is too big, let me say text large like that. And then let me say after this, let me say margin bottom of 5, separate it out from this, let's say 10 is looking much better. And then now once I have this, because now this is basically taking up some space on the web page, then I can now remove this H screen, which now do this right there. And instead of adding now this on the top only, I'm going to say padding on the white, so that is top and bottom like that. Look at that, looking very nice. So let's see, this is a darker blue and it doesn't have a border. Let me remove this border, and then let me increase the shade of blue to 700, not 5700 but 700 like that. Okay, and it has an opacity on hover, so I'm going to say for hover, let the opacity fade to 75%. Let's see, there you go. Okay, with some transition, so transition and transition all, so that we have a slight transition, even though subtle but still available right there. And then I'm going to deal with this now. So what basically is happening is that the images are kind of scrolling over a time period, right? So what I need to do is actually, how do I want to do this? How do I want to do this? This green is bothering me. This green is bothering me. Let's say 100, 200. Let's just leave it at 200 for now. Okay. How do we want to do this? Let me go inside this div, give this div a class name of slider, like that, so that I can go inside my CSS and I can target the slider div, and I'm going to say slider, I want an animation, and the animation is called slide, and I want it to slide for 10 seconds, and I want it to be infinite, like that. And then below this slide I'm going to say create my keyframes, and the keyframes is called slide, which is basically the name of the animation that we've just given it. And I want it to slide from, how many images are there? There are 4 images, right? There are 4 images, so I want it to slide from 25% and then to 50% and then to 75%, oops, and then to 100%. Right. I highly doubt whether this would work. I don't know why. Okay, but basically what I want to do is at 25% we want to change the background image, so background URL for 25% should be images and then hero 2, and then set this to no repeat and center and cover, and then just grab this, copy this here and here and here, change this to 3, change this to 4. Oops, I made a mistake. What should happen here is that this should be 33%, and then this should be 66%, and this should be 100%, so that I can remove this. The reason why I'm setting from 33% is because this is the default image that will show, so I just basically want to alternate these images. So let me save this. Let's see if this would work. Let's see. Does it work? No. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Okay, I'm just going to put it on hold right now. Just put it on hold, and then I can work on these other sections. So I'm going to create this new section right here and call this creative. So inside my components folder, once again, create a new file, call this creative.js, and let me just close these files down because there are so many. And I'm going to say RAFCE once again, and once I do that I'm going to return a fragment as always. And then now is when I actually need this, so I'm going to copy this iframe like that, and then I'm going to return first of all a section, and a section with an h1 that says, actually I shouldn't copy that. Okay, let me just copy this, let me paste this inside, and below this add a paragraph and copy this and paste this inside. And then once I do that, I want to return a div, and inside this div I want to place my iframe. Oops. Copy that, paste it inside there, and then I want to grab this and paste it inside another div like that. And then something that I should change is this, because this is JavaScript, so it has to be camel case, and this should be allow full screen like that. And that should be it. That should work. If this doesn't work, then I'm just going to remove the iframe. Let's see. Oh, I need to import it, so just copy this down, change this to creative, and change this to creative as well like that. So let's see our video. Okay, there it is. That's our video. This is our video, looking nice. Okay, so now we just need a way to okay, would you look at that? Our keyframe slider is actually working. Would you see that? And the reason why, now I've just realized that if I go back into my showcase, let me remove this. Oops, did I do that correctly? Okay, let's see what happens. Nothing happens because this needs to have a defined width and height. It needs to have a defined width and height. So I'm going to say the width for this should be, oops, let me say 75%, and let me say the height should be 400 pixels. Let's see that. So it goes in smaller. And now what if I remove this? We should still see this. Okay, so that means I can change this up a bit, and I can say let me copy this, and this I need to substitute these values once again, so that this is 25 and this is 50 and this is 75 and this is 100, so that this is hero 1 and then 2 3 4. Okay, so let's see now that what there's no hero 1, there's hero. This is the image is still too small, still too small. Let me say height of 700. 100%. Something's wrong. Something is wrong. 75%. What happens when it's 75%? Something is still wrong. Something is still very, very wrong. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to disable this. Let me just disable it. Just disable it for a moment. Okay, just disable it and just let it hang like that, just for a moment, so that I can deal with these other sections. Okay, so in my creative.js, I'm going to say let's see. In this section, give this a class name of padding x of 10 and padding y of 10. So actually I can just say if they're both 10, then I can just say padding of 10 all around. And then inside this h1, oops, this shouldn't be an h1, this should be an h2. Give this h2 a class name of text 2xl and font, oops, not xp, 2xl and font bold and margin bottom of 2. Let me see how this looks. Text center, so it's aligned to the center. So inside this section, I'm just going to say text center, like that. And then inside this paragraph, give this a class name of margin bottom of 4. Push it away from the video. Let me say of 10. Push it away from the video even further, and limit this iframe. So I need to limit this iframe, and I need to say that the width for this should be what's the width for this? This is about 500 pixels, so I'm going to say 400. We should limit it massively like that. Okay, and it breaks a bit. Let me give this class name of margin x auto. Let me see if this will center it. It doesn't. What if I say block and margin x auto? Nothing happens. Why does nothing happen? Because this is already a block element. Let me try it here. Class name block and mx auto. Center it. There you go. And then I'm going to say that on actually, let me see if I can remove these two. Wow. Okay. Let me remove these two, and then I'm going to say that the width for this should be 50%. So it's 50%. It's a half. Width for this should be 50%. The height for this, let me see something. Let me see if this is actually working. H screen. Okay. This is not a good idea. It is not a good idea. It is not a good idea. But you know what I'm thinking? This actually, it doesn't really bother me all that much. Let me move this margin bottom now that we don't need it. Oops, that's the wrong margin. Let me remove this margin so that it's a bit closer to this, and then let me go here and say that for medium screens the width should be a half. I'm not sure whether this will work. Oh, it actually does work. Okay, let me say for large screens then the width should be 3/4, 75%. It should get bigger, but it doesn't, and it doesn't get bigger because this is still limited. Let me say 700. Okay, it's not because of that. I think this is the maximum that it can be because this is technically an embedded value. Okay. So you know what I can do instead is go inside this paragraph and give this a class name of where did I add this? For medium screens, and I can say for medium screens then have a margin bottom of 10. Push it down like that. Okay, I think that looks nice. That looks nice, which means we can now go into our most popular features section. And for the features section, I have something that we can do. And let me just remember to scale this up because it's much easier to do this now than later. So I'm going to say that for this H2 on medium screens, I want it to be text 4XL. Oops, that's the wrong 4XL, like that. And then for this paragraph on large screens, then I want the width to be limited to a half. Let me see how this looks. It should position right there. And then I'm going to say that for large screens as well, let the margin on the X be auto so that it goes back to the center, like that. Okay, that's much more manageable. It's much more manageable. Okay, sorry about that. I was muted for a moment. There was someone at the door. Okay, so what happens here is that can you hear me? I don't know whether I'm still muted. Let me just continue. In case you can't hear me, please just write it out in the chat. Okay, where was I? So I was on the video, so we were dealing with the video. Okay, so the next section that I want to create is actually this section, the most popular features. And for the most popular features, we have some, why do I keep clicking that? We have a data array for this so that we can deal with it. So what I'm going to do is I can close this, and I can close the showcase and my index CSS and the index.js as well, and then we don't need this anymore. So for my components, I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to call this features.js, and then in features.js I'm going to do RAFCE, oops, like that, and then I'm going to import my data. So import data, I don't want it to write twice. Import data from, it's coming from my data and it's called features, like that. And then I need to import use state for this. And remember, the data that I'm using now is actually this features.js. As you can see, it contains my grid images. I just named them grid 1 all through 9, and then with the title, crop and resize photos right there, and then the description is basically this. So what I'm going to do is once I have this right there, I'm going to return an empty fragment, and I'm going to return a section right here and just leave it empty for now. Oops, just leave it empty for now. And then I'm going to import these features into my app.js. So I'm just going to copy this down, grab this and call this features, and then just call this features like that. So once I do that, then I'm going to set up my state value. So I'm going to say const grid and set grid. Let me not call it grid, let me call it cards and set cards. This should use state, and the default value will be the data that I've just imported. And then inside this section, then I want to map over this data, because as you can see, if I hover over it, then we get this, which is basically the structure of our data right there: ID, image, title, and description. and we have ID, image, title, and description. So I want to map over my cards and then display everything that I'm going to do. So I'm going to say cards.map, and then for every card I'm going to say, first of all, I want to destructure a few things. So I'm going to destructure the ID, the image, the title, and the description, and this will be coming from card like that. And then once I do that, then I want to set up a return. Oops, it doesn't do something wrong. A bracket is missing. This is there, this is there. Okay, it should be fine. Wait, is a bracket missing? No. Return. Oops. What is happening? Cards.map. Really? And for every card, oops, then I want to do this. Okay, return, not return, but first of all, destructure the ID, the image, the title, and the description. This is coming from the card, and I'm going to say return, and I want to return a div. So each of these divs is basically each of these cards. Wait, okay, I thought I skipped a section. Oh, this is what I skipped. Okay, I'm going to add this in a moment. So for each of these divs, I want to return a key of ID, and then I want to return an image, and the source for this will be the image. The alt for this will be the title in case it fails to load, and then I'm going to return an h3 saying the title, and then I'm going to return a paragraph below the h3 that says the description, like that. And then right above this, I'm going to return an h2 that says this most popular features. Just copy and paste, and then below this just copy and paste like that. And then I'm going to return a div for each of these. So div, and the reason why I'm returning a div here is because it's much easier to style both of them at once than styling you know, one by one. So right inside here, I'm going to give this a class name of text center like that. And then for the h2, I'm going to give this a class name of font bold and text 2xl like that, and margin bottom of 5. And for the paragraph, give this class name of margin bottom of 5 as well, so that it pushes away from this first grid. Save that. Let's see how this looks, and we should see this right there, looking nice. So we have that, our grid is looking nice. Okay, so what we want to do now is just first of all, let me add some padding on this. Give me a moment. Okay, I am back once again. Sorry for that. There was someone at my door once again. Okay, where was I? I was going to add some padding on this. So padding on the x of 5 of 10, sorry. And this might seem a bit overkill, but the reason why I'm adding it is because on smaller screens, smaller than this, then I don't want this to go all the way to the end of the margin. So okay, let me just reposition. Okay, so once I do that, then I'm going to go inside this section once again, give this a class name of padding on the x of 10. Okay, let me add a bit more margin on this paragraph. Let me say margin 10. Push it down even further. And then for this div, I'm going to give this a class name of rounded dash large. And then this section has a background color of gray, right? Okay, so for this section, I'm going to say bg gray dash 100. That's too faint. Let me say 200. Okay, 200 is much more manageable, and this needs to be here as well. And then this, now instead of margin, I'm going to add a padding so that it doesn't have this space. So we should have this so that it's connected. And then for this, I'm going to add a padding on the x-axis, not on the x-axis, sorry, but on the top. So padding on the top of 10 so that this pushes inwards just a bit, like that. And then I'm going to say that for this h3, I'm going to say give this a class name of font bold and margin on the y of 4, and text, let me say text XL. Let me reduce this to 2. And then let me go inside the paragraph, give this a class name of let me say margin bottom of 5. Actually, no, that's not a good idea. That is not a good idea. A better idea is to grab both of these and place them inside a div, so that I can go inside this div, give this a class name of px of 5 and py of 5 as well, I guess, which will push it inwards, and then give this a background color of white, like that, so that I can now go inside this section right there, and I can say display this as grid and have grid columns to be 1 and add a grid gap of 10, which will separate them out like that. Would you look at that? And then of course let me add when I did it, I thought I added rounded large here, but I can't seem to see okay, you know what, let me just open my magnify because I can't see this properly. Let my magnifier open and see whether I added a border radius. I can't really see it. I really can't see it. Yeah, there's no border radius right there. Okay, there's no border radius, but why doesn't this work? Let me grab it from here, let me place it here, and let me see if I can add it. Okay, so now this has a border radius even on the top, as you can see. So what I want to do instead is add the border radius on the bottom only and not on the top. So I can do that by saying rounded dash b dash lg, which will remove the border radius on the top right there. Let me zoom in so that you can see. It removes the border radius on the top but adds it on the bottom. And then I want to do the opposite of this on the image, where I have the border radius on the top but not on the bottom. So I'm going to go inside the image, give this a class name of this, but change this to t, meaning top, and it should add a border radius. Look at that, looking very nice. And that's basically it for this grid. Actually, that is basically it for this grid. Okay, and then once I do that, then I can go inside. Actually, you know what, why do I keep on forgetting to scale this up? Let me just scale it up immediately so that we can have an easier time. And I'm going to go inside this, and I'm going to say that for medium screen, let the grid columns be 2, and then for large screens, let the grid columns be 3, and then for extra large screens, let the grid columns be 4. Let's look at that, and we can begin to see it right from there. And as you can see, I have already spotted something wrong because we don't want this to happen, and we can fix that easily by doing this on the image. You can go into the image and say width full. We should do this right there. Okay, and then this right, and then this. Okay, and then this. Okay, looking very nice, very manageable. Although I wanted this to I wanted the white space here so that they can look more uniform, but this looks fine, I guess. And what I can, oops, wait, let me see how this looks. It's 3 grids. Okay, it's 3 grids, not 5, and so I should have stopped it right there, so that this is 3 grids. And then what I want to do is just limit these. So I'm going to go into the section and say padding, sorry, for large screens I'm going to say padding on the x-axis to be 32. Why do I keep forgetting that dash? Which will push it inwards. Actually, that's total. Let me say 56. Push it inwards even more, so that we have this type of grid. Okay, that looks nice. That looks nice. And I should remember to also change this, remove this space right there. Okay, and then let me add some padding on the bottom of this, so that we can actually scroll down just a bit more. And I'm going to say right here, let me add a padding bottom of 10. And we should have some bit of space, a bit of leeway, so I can reduce this once again. And then I'm going to say now for our next section, I don't know what to call this really. I don't know what to call this section, but I'm just going to call it grid. Okay, I can close this, and then I'm going to create a new component and call this grid.js. And remember, the data for grid.js is coming from, I think it's data, right? Where I have our photo editor and I have our photo editor, so it's okay. And inside this grid I'm going to say RAFCE once again, and I'm going to return a fragment, and I'm going to return a section inside this fragment. And then I'm going to set up my state values, where I'm going to say const, I'm going to say, let me just say items, and set items equals to react.use state. And you'll notice that I haven't imported use state at the top right now, and I should learn to spell this, use state. This is coming from our data that we need to import from data.js, which is basically this. And I'm going to say import data. What's happening? Import data from data, and it's called data like that. Will this conflict? I wonder. Let's find out together. So I'm going to say items.map, the same thing that we're doing, and I'm going to say that for every item, then I want to say, okay, I want to destructure the ID, the image, title, and description. So ID, image, title, and description. This is coming from item. And then I want to set up my return, where I want to return a div, a div with the key of ID. And then inside this div I want to return another div, which will basically have this, because on bigger screens you'll notice that these alternate, right? So it's basically a grid. So I'm going to say return the first div. The first div will have an h3 that says the title, the title. And then below the title I'm going to have a paragraph that says the description. And then below this I'm going to create another div with an image tag, and the image, the source for this will be our image, just like that. And in case the image fails to load, then I just want to show the title of the grid like that, and we should see something on the screen, but we don't, because I need to import this in app.js. Keep on doing that. So grid, and call this grid like that. So would you look at that? So we have this, and we have all our images basically. Okay, so I'm going to place this to the side so that we can style it for mobile first. And I'm going to say inside this grid I'm going to say that for this section, give this a class name of padding on the x of 10, so that it pushes it inwards, and then padding on the y of 10 as well. And then for the h3, give this a class name of font bold, and then I'm going to say text for XL and margin bottom 5, so that this happens for each one of them. And then inside this section, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? What do I want to do really? I'm losing my mind. Inside this section, Let me go inside this paragraph, give this paragraph a class name of margin bottom of 10, separate it out from this image, and then go inside this section and say this should be grid, and the grid columns should be 1, right? Is that right? Is that right? Let me give this a grid gap of 10. Separate it out even further. Let me see how this looks. So it's basically the same thing. Oh, and I have a button, right? I have a link, sorry. So I have a link, so I should also destructure the link so that below this paragraph I can say return a button that says link, like that, and we should be able to see our link right there. So instead of having this here, I'm going to grab this and place it inside this, and instead have a class name of margin bottom of 3 on the paragraph. And then for this I'm going to have a border, and border, let me say 4, and border color of border blue, and let's say 400, so that we have that. And I'm going to say padding on the y of 2, padding on the x of 4. Okay, let me say rounded dash large, so that we have this. Welcome everyone to the stream. And then I'm going to say that once I have this, then I'm going to say actually this is fine, so that we have this as well, and we have this. Okay, so let me just scale it up just a bit because something is really bothering me. I'm going to say that go inside this, and I'm going to say that for medium screens, wait, is it for medium screens first of all? Let me see. It doesn't start on medium screens, it starts at about, still not yet, it starts at about large screens. Okay, so I'm going to say that for large screens, then I want the grid columns to display as 2 fractionals. Let's see, is that correct? Something's wrong, something is very wrong. This is not what I wanted. This is not what I wanted. What I wanted was for this. Okay, let me think about this. Okay. I want this, the H and the paragraph and the button, to be in the same grid with the image. Instead, what's happening is that this is let me remove this from here. Let me try something. Let me say give this grid a class name of flex. Let's see what happens. Okay, this is what I want. So I'm going to say grid here, and grid columns to be 2, and let me specify that this is for large screens only. So for large screens, so that we have this. Okay, it's coming together. Well, almost anyway, because now what I need to do is interchange these images, the second image actually. So I need to interchange this image. And how do I do that in CSS Grid? I know how to do it in Flexbox. So instead of this, let me say for large screens, let's just display flex. And for large screens, let me say, actually that won't work. Let me say for large screens, I just want to say items center. And then once again for large screens, I'm just going to say justify center, so that this will happen. And then I'm going to say that for this first div, give this a class name of large, and I want this large screen to have a width of 50%, so half, like that. Okay, okay. So once I have this, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside right here, give this large padding on the X of 56. Okay, so it's almost coming together. It's almost. But what I need to do is now target this second one and interchange the values, interchange the image to come here and this to go here on this other side. So let me see if I can do that. And I'm going to say that I'm going to give this a custom class name of grid-card. And then I'm going to go into index CSS right there. And below this, I'm going to say that for grid-card, then I want, let me see if I can change flex direction to column. Let me see if it works, and it works. So since this, no. Oh, you know what? I'm doing this wrongly. I need to go grid cards and say nth child 2, which means it will target only the second one, and it should work. As you can see now, this is still displayed flex, but the second one is displayed as column. This is displayed as a row, and the second one is displayed as a column, and the third one should also be displayed as a row. So what I want to do here, instead of column, is say row reverse, like that, which should do this. Would you look at that? So it has this, and this goes to the other side, and this goes to the other side. Now what I want to do is add a bit of margin between the image and the text. So what I'm going to do is right inside this, right? Let me see, why am I displaying flex? I'm displaying flex here. So I'm going to say that for large screens, then I want the margin on the right, not on the right, but on the X to be 10. Let's see how that goes. So it adds a bit of margin, as you can see, adds a bit of margin. Yep, that looks nice. And I've just noticed that this has a background color of gray. So oh yeah, that's because this image has technically a background color of gray. So let me do that. I'm going to go into index CSS, and just right below this, I'm going to say background color, set this to DDD. That's too dark. Let me say EE. Really? What's this color? I don't have a color picker. That should be it. There you go. And let me just change this to hex value F5. Okay, so that we have this. And just so that this doesn't look so tight squeezed, I'm going to add a padding on each of these divs. So I can go back into my grid.js, and for each of these divs, I can say, right here, let me add a padding on the Y of 10, which should add a padding on each one of them. As you can see, looking very nice, looking very nice. Okay, now once we're done with this section, then obviously the next section that we need to work on is this right here. So I'm going to call this section editing. So I'm going to create a new component in my components folder and call it editing.js. With this should be easy to create. So I'm going to say RAFCE. Oops, my laptop is starting overheating. Okay, so this should return an empty fragment, and I'm going to return a section with an h2. Oops. With an h2 that says photo editing and graphic design simplified. And then below this, I want a button that says get started, which is basically the same button as this, right? And because I already did it, I don't want to do it again. So what I'm going to do is go into my showcase, and inside my showcase, I'm just going to copy this. So copy that, and then just paste it right inside here, like that. and we should see something on the screen, but we don't, once again, because I haven't rendered this. So this should say editing, and below this I should say editing, like that, and there we have it. So let's just begin to style this to look just a bit better. So for this section, give this a class name of bg-green-500, and then let's say padding on the y of let me see, 20, and padding on the x of 10, and text center. 20 is too large, let me reduce this to 10. Is there 16? Let's do 16, and then let me go inside this h2, give this a class name of font bold and text 4xl, no 2xl, margin bottom of 5, which should have this. Okay, let me change this to blue, let me change this to 300. Looks a bit better, and then that's basically it for this section. We just need to scale it up, and I'm going to start scaling it up from large screens for the header, and I'm going to say that for large screens I just want the text to go to 4xl, just a bit bigger, as you can see. And that's basically it for this section. As you can see, I didn't get these images, so I'm not going to add them. And now we just need to deal with our footer, right? So we need to create footer.js component. So I can close this, and I can close this, and this as well. And inside my components folder, I'm going to say footer.js, and then in footer.js I'm going to say RAFCE, and then return an empty fragment. And inside this footer, remember that I need to get my data array, which is footer.js, which has actually I don't need this, which basically has the ID, the title, and the links in an array, which is basically all the links that we will need right there. Okay, so let me save that, and then I can go into footer.js, and I can say import data from, it's coming from data, and it's called footer, like that. No, footer, like that. What's happening? Okay, and then I can say let me give this state values of what do I call them? Footer links. Let me just call them footer links, and set footer links. This should be coming from react.useState and passing our data as default. And then once you do that, I just want to return a footer element, and then inside this footer element I want to map over the footer links. So footer links dot map, and for every footer link, then I want to say destructure my data, and I want to get the ID. I want to get not the image but the title and the links. So title and links, and this will be coming from footer link, like that. And let's set up my return, and then I want to return a div, right? I want to return a div, not a div, sorry. Is it a div? Let me return a div. Let me turn a div with a key of ID, and then inside this div I want to return an h4 that says the title, like that. And then right below this I want to return a ul, right? A ul, and the reason why I'm returning a ul is because this is an array that I want to map over. If you check our data, this is an array, so I want to say that inside this ul I want links dot map, and then for every link, then I want to say I want to return, set up another return, and I want to return list items, and each of these list items should have the key of link, because there are no repeating links basically. That's why I have the key of link here. Okay, and then once I do that, then I just want to say display the link name, like that. And once I save this, then I should import it in app.js. I remember this time, so I'm going to say footer, right there, and then below this I'm going to say footer. Et voila, now we should see something on the screen, and we see this. Now all we need to do now is just style it. So obviously, because I'm building this mobile first, and you're about to hear some noise. Okay, so because I'm building this mobile first, obviously I want to build it on a smaller screen, so I'm going to give this a class name of padding on the X of 10 and padding on the Y of 10 as well. And I've been doing this, I should actually just say padding of 10 because it's basically the same on the X and Y axis. And then inside the H4, give this a class name. How do I do this? Give this a class name of font bold and text XL and margin bottom of 4. Let's see that, so that we have this. And then inside this ULs, give this ULs a class name of margin bottom of 4 as well, so that it separates out just a bit more. Let's say 5 like that. And then for each of these list items right inside there, give this a class name of margin on the bottom. Let me say margin on the bottom of 4, so that they separate out just a bit more, like that. That's too much, let me say 2. And then let me reduce the size. Let me say text small, and then let me say text gray, text gray dash 500, and we should see this looking very nice. And then let me add a cursor pointer, cursor dash pointer, like that, looking nice. And then for the hover, let me add a hover effect and say the text should be black on hover, so that we have this. Okay, looking nice. So that's basically our footer on a mobile screen. So what we want to do right here is where am I? It should be here. Is it? Right inside the UL. So right inside the UL, I'm going to say that for small screens, then I want this to display as grid, and then small, and say grid columns to be 2. And then for small, I want the gap to be 10, right? And then for, okay, yeah, that should work. Let's see this in action. That's not what I want. Let me remove this gap, so that we have this. Is this for this? That's not what I expected though, but it still looks fine. It kind of looks fine. Let me scale it up even further, and I'm going to say that for large screens, then just change the grid columns to be 3. Let's see how this works. No, that's not what I want. That's not what I want. That is not what I want. Instead, what I want is, I'm just going to remove this from here, and then I'm going to say that for small screens, oops, let me just paste it, and it should work. And we should have this right there. And then I'm going to say that for large screens, then just change the grid columns to be 3, so that we have this. And then I'm going to say that for extra large screens, actually no, let me just place it as 4 on large screens, so that we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I can say place items to the center. We should move it to the center, but I don't like this zigzag low, so let me remove it. And then I can say, sorry about the noise. So once I do that, I can say that let me just text, no, not text align center. If I text align center, what will happen is that this will all come to the center as well, which I don't want. I don't want that. Instead, what I can do is that for large screens, I can say the width should be 9/12, which is 75% of the screen. And then I can say that for large screens, let the margin on the X be auto, which will center it like that. like that, looking nice. And something is missing. What is it that's missing? Let me check this. Okay, yeah, this is missing. Yep, this is missing. So what I need to do is just import this logo. So I'm going to say import logo, just like we did on the header. So I'm going to import logo from, it's coming from my images, and it's called logo.svg. And then should I return it inside this? This is hard. Let me see. No, but this will return multiple logos. Yeah, I don't want this to happen. So what I need to do is set it up before so that this happens, right? And once this happens, then I need to change this to 5 so that this goes right there. And then for this image, I need to give this a class name of margin on the right of 10. Separate it out from the thing is right there. And then I'm going to grab this image and place it inside a div like that, so that below this image I can place my React icons, which are basically the Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and the rest. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to say import, and I'm going to be importing all of them from Font Awesome. So I'm going to say import FA Facebook, FA Twitter, FA Pinterest, FA Instagram, FA LinkedIn, and FA, is it capital I or small I? And FA, what is the last one? YouTube. Like that, and all of this is coming from React icons /FA. And then to use them, stream disconnected. My stream disconnected. Man. This just shows like I'm online. Let me just continue to do this. Okay. So below this, I'm going to return a UL with the list items. So how many icons do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So times 6, and this should say FA Facebook, like that. And then just copy this. Okay, you know what? Let me just say FA Twitter, and then let me say FA Instagram, and then FA LinkedIn, like that, and then FA Pinterest, and then FA YouTube, like that. So let me save that, and we should see this on the screen. And then I can go inside this, give this a class name of flex. Am I back again? My stream disconnected for a moment. I should be back. Okay, there you go. So I think I'm back again. So basically what I've done is just I've taken all of this that I have, remove this. I've just displayed all of this inside a UL, and with the class name of flex, with list items of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and that's basically everything that we have right there. Okay, so once I do this, then I want to go inside each of these list items. So just select them. Really, and then give this class name of margin on the X of 2, and text of XL or large, so I just increase the size like that, and then let me increase the margin between this div, and I can do that by going inside, let me remove this from here actually, and then place it inside this, which does nothing because it's basically 10, so I'm going to return this to 20. Nothing happens. Nothing happens because why does nothing happen? Because I need to add it on this margin right of 20, but nothing still happens anyway. This is quite interesting. I'm kind of afraid to push this down a bit, to scale it down, because this might disrupt the previous styling that we had. Give me a moment, just a moment. Okay. Okay, so let me go inside this, give this a, you know what, let me just select each of these icons. So select this, select this, select this, and this, and this. Give this a class name of text large, so that I can remove this from here, and this from here, and this from here, and this from here, and finally this from here, which should now increase the size of my icons, but it doesn't, and I'm getting tired of it, so I'm just going to leave it at that. So on smaller screen, this is how it looks, and I think it looks pretty nice. So let me just add a margin on the bottom of this, so that I can say that margin bottom of 10, so that it pushes just a bit down from this, like that. Okay, so once we have this, the only thing that's remaining is, let me increase the font size for this icon. Let me go back into my navbar.js, and I'm going to say that for my icon right here, give this a class name of text XL or 2XL. Just make it a bit bigger so that it's more prominent, and then I can say cursor of pointer, like that. And then what I need to do is now just deal with this with our previous keyframes. So I can now close this and close this and close this and close this, and then I can open index.css. So index.css right there, and then I can uncomment this, so that we see what we have. So we have this, right? Okay, so I need to deal with this on smaller screens first of all. Let me remove this width. So the width sets it now to 100%, right? And then the height, reduce this to 400 pixels. So 400 pixels is nice. And then what I need to do now is scale this up just a bit. So I'm going to say at media and mid width of 992 pixels. Oops. I'm going to paste this in, and I'm going to change this to 500, and I'm going to say max. Oops, wait, is that correct? I need to remove this from here. Let me see. 500. Actually, you know what I need to do is display this as 2 grids on bigger screens. So I'm going to say 768 instead, right there. And then I'm going to go into my showcase, so components and showcase, right? Let me see. I'm going to say that for medium screens, I want the grid columns. Oops, I need to display it as grid first, and then grid columns 2b2, so that this happens. and let me say for medium screens, let me say place items center, so that this should move down and this should load in if you might, but it doesn't want to load in. Things are not going my way today, chat. Really? Really? So adding this makes this disappear. Just the same way that adding flex on, let me remove this. The same way that adding flex on the header, on the navbar, adding flex here makes the logo disappear. This is quite interesting to me though. This is quite interesting to me. Let me remove this. And then instead, let me go inside this div and give this a class name of, for medium width, let me give it a class name of padding top of 32, which should push it down. And then let me add a grid gap here. So medium, let me add a grid gap of 20, which should push this out like that. And I think that will basically be it for this really. But I'm really curious. You live, you learn. You live, you learn. Okay, so guys, OBS keeps on disconnecting and I can't deal with this anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to end the stream, and then I'm going to upload the video to YouTube. So please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and if you like the content as well, remember to share it on social media, and you can as well follow me on social media as well, on Twitter, on Instagram at TSB Sankara. And I have not displayed the thing that I usually have at the bottom here because I found it to be a bit distracting for me as well, so I just removed it. But that's basically it. That's the clone that we could make of this in such a short time, in about an hour 30 minutes. So I really hope you enjoyed it, and please do welcome back for another video. Thank you for watching.